Welcome to Then and Now, the weekly show I do with my co-host, Jim Jatras, author of I Try to Warn You, collective works of Jim Jatras over the years, collective writings, essays, commencement speeches, a whole bunch of really good stuff. It's a good walk through the decades of political analysis and theory. So thank you, Jim, for that. And nice to see you, Jim.
Igualmente, senor. Good to see you.
So, just a recap. You were on a panel this previous weekend, over on Expat Money Summit. It was a geopolitical hotspot panel with Dave DeCamp from Anti-War News and Kyle Anzalone, the Kyle Anzalone Show. So go check that out. You can go over to expatmoneysummit.com. You can still see the replays. So you can get a ticket. I think it's a free ticket. And go see Jim sit on the panel and talk some geopolitics. What did you talk about there, Jim?
Pretty much everything we talked about. Obviously, the situation in the Middle East. At that time, I'm trying to think. I guess the Gaza deal was just about to be finalized, but hadn't been yet. I expressed a great deal of skepticism about it. Of course, I still I'm skeptical about things, but we can talk about that. And of course, Russia, Venezuela, the whole 9 yards. So, Kyle and Dave and Mark Claire, we had a great time.
So go check that out, expatmoneysummit.com, and get yourself a ticket. I think I'm not sure if there's any VIP tickets still available, but if there are, and you want to buy one to get all the access to all the things, of course, Expat likes to talk about financial options for you, where to move your money, keep it safe. Bug out options, all the rest of it. So, which is something that might come in handy in the coming years. We'll see how things go, because I think things are going to get kind of turbulent. But we'll talk more about that in a second. So go to expatmoneysummit.com, and of course, there's always get some coffee at foxandsons.com. Steve Fox is a great friend of the show, so use coupon code NOW in the at the checkout and get yourself 15% off orders of $30 or more. Orders of $40 or more, and you get yourself some free shipping anywhere in the continental United States. Okay. Well, a few things have happened since we last talked. Since you brought it up, there's been a peace deal. Peace in the Middle East. There's Time Magazine. You gotta love Time Magazine, right? The CEO of Time, has just recently come out and praised Trump, or at least praised the peace deal. Let's be fair. And he puts out the Time Magazine, and of course just includes Trump's turkey neck. The most unflattering.
It does make him look big. He likes to be a big man, and makes him look monumental.
Sure.
So I don't know if it's not the most flattering picture, but it is a picture that plays to his the image that he wants to have.
Grandiosity.
Strong.
Sure. I mean, it does say his triumph, the leader Israel needed, and how Gaza heals. This is from Time itself. The living Israeli hostages held in Gaza have been freed under the first phase of Donald Trump's peace plan, alongside a Palestinian prisoner release. The deal may become a signature achievement of Trump's second term, and it could mark a strategic turning point for the Middle East. So, before we get into all the rest of it here, Jim, especially Hillary Clinton's response, which I thought was interesting. What do you think of the initial response? So the initial peace plan. So just to lay it out, we've talked about this in detail on previous shows. I don't have the the full plan in front of me because I think it's going to be apt to change. But essentially, the first plan was for Hamas to release the hostages, Israel to release some Palestinian prisoners,
right,
there to be a ceasefire, and then basically, depending on how this goes, some sort of administration within Gaza, probably headed by the United States, and an international body as well. There's going to be some
Tony
NATO
Blair.
members.
Don't forget Tony Blair.
Tony Blair. How could we forget Tony Blair? Will
I
be
wish I
there, of
could.
course, in the new board, and we'll see how people, if there's extractions, if this ceasefire holds, if there's any other incursions of violence on which side or the other. We'll see how it goes. I don't think Israel's done with their military actions. Certainly, we've talked about the possibility of them going back to war with Iran. But anyways, what are your first initial thoughts, Jim, of this of the big peace plan?
Well, my initial thought was I was surprised it even got to the first step, which was the release of the living hostages, because my first thought at the time was, why would Hamas give them up and thereby give up what few levers they have with respect to the Israelis? And then the thought occurred to me afterward as well, maybe those hostages are not really that much used to Hamas anymore. What leverage does it really give them at this point? I noticed that in his little dog and pony show at Sharm el Sheikh with the various assembled world midgets, leaders of minor leaders of mostly minor countries, which we'll talk about, which was really humorous, but we'll talk about it a bit. He skated directly from release of hostage to rebuilding Gaza. And of course, there's something really big and fat in between. And that is Hamas would have to give up its weapons, destroy its tunnels, basically give up what real leverage they have, which is military leverage. And that's really the next step. We're going to have to see what happens. Maybe Hamas is just going to give up its weapons and beg for mercy. I somehow think not. I've noticed too, and I sent you a link just before the show about the fighting that's already starting now between Hamas and some of the local clans, and one in particular. I'm trying to remember the name of it. It's originally a Turkish family that moved to Gaza some time ago. But anyway, and I think it might have been Max Blumenthal. Somebody said basically the Israelis are now pumping a lot of money into other assets inside Gaza, mainly Al-Qaeda affiliated. And so I think what we're going to see now is a lot of fighting among the Arabs in Gaza, between Hamas and whoever is against them, whether they're just local clans or whether they're ideological rivals, other jihad groups. But in any case, the Israelis are going to put some money into that. Frankly, I wouldn't be surprised they're also going to put some money into Hamas as well to keep that pot boiling for a while. So the next question is going to be, does Hamas give up its weapons, and how bad does the fighting among Palestinians get within Gaza while the Israelis figure out their next move?
Yeah, I think you're on the mark there, because the narrative is always we're all together, right? We're all united, we're all together.
Yeah.
Let's get around the campfire, sing kumbaya, make some s'mores. In reality, there's always special interest within every group. We're not even no one's talking about Turkey, no one's talking about Iran or Hezbollah or even Saudi Arabia and what they might really want out of the deal, right? It's this assumption that this deal's been made and everyone's on board. We're going to see. I'm sure going to start seeing even in the Israeli government. I'm sure there's entities and people with interests that might not align perfectly to this overarching plan, and we're going to see that play out. Regardless, exactly. I think we're going to start seeing it's going to be a 10 to 20 year rebuilding process.
And that might have been, well, I don't think we're going to get to that, actually, 10 to 20 year rebuilding process. I think things are going to fall apart a lot sooner than that. And another reason why Hamas might have wanted to give up the hostages is that, that's been a sore point for Netanyahu. I mean, a lot of the anti-Netanyahu feeling inside Israel is being, fed by the hostage families and saying, why, it's been 2 years. Why? So I think maybe in a way, giving the hostages back maybe in some way it weakens Netanyahu in some way. I think the real big imponderable though here, Jason, is that a lot of the smart guys out there, smarter than me, Amir Seimer and what's his name, Colonel Larry Wilkerson, a few others, McGregor, they're all saying that the war with Iran is going to come back a lot sooner than people think. By Thanksgiving, end of the year at the latest. Could be any time. It depends on a number of military factors, political factors. You also wonder I've noticed a lot of pro-Israel voices are voicing dissatisfaction with this deal. And I wonder what the quid pro quo was, where Trump gets his ceasefire, he gets his picture on Time magazine, et cetera, in exchange for writing a total blank check to Bibi for the upcoming war with Iran. And once that starts, Gaza is just going to be a leaf blown in the wind. Nobody give a damn what happens in Gaza next.
Yeah, I have that distinct feeling as well.
Yeah.
It's, for me, it's always about timing, right? Like, why now? Yeah. Why this feeling of like momentum? Yeah. Like it's got to get done now. Before the year's end, before we have any real negotiations, we're going to get this through. We talked about this on previous shows, and you'd asked me, I think offline, is like, you think they're going to do this? I'm like, I think they're going to force it through. I think they're going to do what they have to do to make it look like it's happening, if nothing else. Because doesn't seem to be any other plan. And to your point, Jim, I think this is get it off the table, right? So that we don't have to deal with 3 different wars. We're going to deal with 2, because we'll get to Ukraine and Russia in a second. But that project is ongoing, and if there's a greater Israel project that's still in motion, which I still think is on the table, and certainly I know, right? We're going to say this, and we're going to get all the comments and all the hate and all this stuff. And sorry, guys, this is just how it's playing out. Sorry. Hey, if it changes, bud, I'll change my tune. Hey, I'll blow a different whistle there, buddy. But right now, we got to deal with the Donnybrook we got in front of us, not the Donnybrook we wanted. So, I mean, look, I know everyone gets hyper concentrated on the right. The tiny hats, the bagels, whatever you want to call them, right? And granted, they're the group that gets mentioned a lot because they're the group. Yeah, it's not just them. They're not the only interest in the world. They're not the only sovereign actor in the world. And even when we talk about City of London and Saudi Arabia and all these other groups, people kind of just gloss over, Muslims, the entire Islamic world, that small little, a percentage of people, so China, all these other major actors, even if there is some sort of coordination, and I do believe there is some coordination here, the directions are the same. They all work for the same people, but each individual group has their own, let's say their own directives, their own interests, and they're going to pursue those as well. And those things may or may not be part of any kind of coordination. So the Iran thing, I think, is part of this big general plan. But I use plan in the most nebulous term possible, where it's like a desire, a want. It's on the list of things to do, and they're pursuing it pretty aggressively. And Trump is part of that. Trump's part of that. Putin's part of that. Everyone's following part of that, whether they know it or not. They're carrying water for somebody.
And that's why it makes it so hard to figure out what's going to happen next, because there's so many moving parts, and they're all interrelated. It's like a mobile. You cut one string and the whole thing, changes shape.
Let's one of the big sort of precursors to that kind of thinking is we see this new coordination around the narrative. So here's Hillary Clinton with it's not Condoleezza Rice. Who is this again?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it is. Okay. Oh yeah.
My goodness, she's No,
never mind. Don't be nasty.
Yeah. Okay.
A really significant first step, and I really commend President Trump and his administration, as well as Arab leaders in the region, for making the commitment to the 20-point plan and seeing a path forward for what's often called the day after. Most importantly, the conflict hopefully will end with the ceasefire, the hostages will be returned, and then the very hard work of rebuilding Gaza, of finding the kind of security that Israel and the Palestinians after Hamas deserve to have, moving forward with the other points in the plan to try to create an opportunity for Palestinians to have a better life and for Israel to have greater peace and security. I am very hopeful that we'll be able to see progress. Today's a good start, but we have to keep going from here.
So I'm just, it's obviously it's Hillary Clinton saying something vaguely nice about Trump. Hell has frozen over, but we had the Queen Demon there on the screen. But this is my point, right? Now we're starting to see coordination around a narrative on both sides. And I forget who said this, but it's like, oh, you always know something bad's about to happen when you have agreement. When both sides seem to be agreeing about something, it's like, now we're in for trouble. So any thoughts about that? Any thoughts about this sort of coordinating narrative between left and right?
Yeah, we're a long way from lock her up, huh?
Right.
For the good old days, right? Yeah, I think you're exactly right. When all, who is it? Somebody said the Republicans and the Democrats are just two wings of the same bird of prey. And when both wings are flapping in the same direction and they're all holding hands and singing "Kumbaya," something stinks out there. And they've got a plan. They're going to move forward with it. Somehow, I don't think it has much to do with peace. It's like I mentioned a little while ago about all the smart guys saying a war with Iran is coming up. I think a war with Venezuela is baked into the cake, and that's going to happen too. Some big things are in the works in the very near future, and where they fit into the larger interrelated plan encompassing multiple theaters, I don't know the answer.
I still can't shake this idea that the reconstruction plan that was also announced with the peace plan, that multi-stage thing, and again, I think we've covered it, and we've said that these plans are apt to change. So I'm not going to even bother reading out all the things because who knows, right? But I do think it is a blueprint. They are announcing a blueprint, a desire. This is part of the plan. And I think that's going to be part of the plan in Ukraine and any other place they do this to, Iran, Sudan, run down the list. There's been open speculation. I know Matthew Erickson and I have talked about this separately and together, is that other voices have talked about this too, that it seems like we're moving in the direction of a post-nationalist world where the nation state and that thing that was established like 400 years ago is now reaching its expiry date, and they're about to do a new thing. So if you look at something like, go ahead.
Well, hold on a second. Well, hold on there, partner.
Whoa,
wasn't that supposed to be the whole clash between the American, global empire, the thalassocratic empire, which is post-national, globalist, Davos, all the rest of it, whereas the rising power of Eurasia, the BRICS, et cetera, are supposed to be the standard bearers of national sovereignty and civilizational states, and Russia and China, India, going to be strictly Westphalian in their defense of their sovereign interests and so forth. You mean to tell me that that they're just as globalist as the other guys are, and maybe working hand in glove with them, that, maybe Sauron and Saruman are not really enemies after all?
Well, it's the liberal frame is held together by the dialectic, and oftentimes the dialectic is creating the AB. We saw this during COVID, right? Vaccinated, unvaccinated. Right. Just to name one, the British Empire ruled for many years by creating and we're seeing this throughout everywhere, right? ABs. Now, who's the in group, who has power, and who's the out group? That changes, but the dialectic never changes. The tension is always there because the tension is one, maintains the frame, and two, allows them to manipulate people really easily. Everyone's always off base because it can infect your home. It's a revolution gets into your house where, husband and wife have two different politics, and it's like seeing the world through two different lenses.
Yeah.
You can't, and so now you have a conflict in your home and your family and everywhere, and there is no unity because as long as everyone's split apart, well, you can move people around whenever you want to, and people are just chasing status quo and different vestiges of that. So
okay, but if that's the case, like for example, so are we not trying to take Russia down? Are we not trying to take Iran down? Are we not trying to take China down?
I think it's.
What about
a really good
Venezuela?
question.
You're going to take them down, right?
Yeah, well, I think it's regime change, right?
Yeah, which means we basically will end any pretense that Venezuela is a sovereign state and make it essentially a vassal state, like pretty much everybody else in the Western Hemisphere.
Well, where Venezuela goes, so does Cuba, right? Because Cuba has been massively funding Venezuela. They did this is going back decades now from Chavez, where Cuba was basically doing a doctor and military exchange for oil.
Right.
So you take out Venezuela, you get Cuba. It's a 2-for-1 deal.
Yeah. And that's
right?
I'm sure that's linked to that. I mean, that's I'm sure high on little Marco's to-do list.
Well, let's consider two possibilities here, right? Here's two potential narratives, and I've actually been more on we're heading into an age of empire, multipolar empire camp, but that doesn't mean that the nation state as we know it still survives that, right? Because the nation state as we know it runs off this sort of post-Westphalian, parliamentary liberal mentality where if you look around the world, everything is essentially a liberal, some sort of version of a liberal parliament, right? Whether it's a republic, even communist China basically still has that structure. It's just done their way. So if we're moving into empire, that's that nation state, which and along with that comes the managerial revolution and all that, the blob and deep state and all that, that can go. That can be now cut out from the system as a restructure into an actual empire. Now, how that functions, what it looks like in 100 years, who cares really? but it's going to look different. It's going to be different. And I think even our concept of what a nation is will be different. What if America is just the Americas?
But wasn't that the whole point of all the mega types and voting for Trump? And he's going to make America great again, and he's going to get rid of those globalist liberals who don't like the American flag, and we're going to consolidate in our hemisphere now, and it's going to be America, America, America. I mean, you think that's all funny?
Sales pitch. I think it's real. I think that transition into a post-national state will require still a super body, right? You'll still need some sort of entity. So I think it's going to look more like Rome. Imagine something like, this is where I don't know, and maybe we can just spitball ideas, because if you look at what Curtis Yarvin's talked about in terms of patchwork, and I'm not saying he's accurate on this is the direction they're going, but it seems to be that way with 15-minute cities. You look at what they're doing in Honduras with Prospera and many of these other things, right? The VC push is to essentially create city-states, to go back to that Venice Italian model. But imagine this, right? And this is Network State talks about this in terms of nodes and all the rest of it. So imagine if internally you have all these connected nodes, right? So little mini city states that are all serving their purpose in these zones. And that's held together by one large body, which is the empire. So you'd have the Americas empire, you'd have the Russia's empire, the Sino-Chinese empire, and probably this greater Israel, Middle Eastern empire, right? But I'm using empire just because it's the word to use. But that's probably not accurate because it's calling back to Rome, Byzantium, all these other things. Maybe it's not even that. It's just look.
I mean, you had something similar to that before World War I. You had British Empire, French Empire, German Empire, Russian Empire, Italian Empire, Spanish Empire. Right. I mean, they're all European, but they all had global possessions, and they more or less controlled pretty much all the world, except even all the world if you count the Ottoman Empire too, which is a little bit different in kind, but nonetheless it was an empire. But there was no unifying global structure to that. There was kind of a rules of the road, gentleman's agreement about how you keep the peace until they didn't. But there was, and the British Empire was kind of the first among equals, the primus inter pares among the empires. But it's not as though the British Empire controlled those other empires. In fact, her desire to control those empires was part of what led to the war in the first place. And of course, it seems to me that the United States has sort of stepped into that role for the last, well, basically since the Second World War, when we displaced the British. I don't know the fact that we have an American empire clashing with what still purport to be sovereign states of a civilizational nature means that there's an overarching unity to what they're doing. It may be, but we could, that's kind of speculative. It's, from my perspective, we're still in the mode where the American aspiring global empire wants to crush anybody who could resist. And that's really the name of the game.
Yeah, I mean, it's I guess it's a question of, is the tail wagging the dog, and then who's the tail and who's the dog, right?
Right.
Just to get to more clips here. Here's Trump talking about the fierceness of Israel and how standing against Israel is basically a suicide.
United Kingdom. Where's United Kingdom? Where's
sorry, that's wrong clip. This is one we talked about before. We're talking about friends and unity, right?
Go ahead and play. Go ahead and play it.
Yeah. This is sorry. This is Trump. This is how Trump addresses his European friends. Of course, behind us we have Maloney, we have Keir Starmer. Yeah. There's Comey from Canada. So yeah, this is when he calls Keir Starmer up to the podium.
United Kingdom. Where's United Kingdom? Where's our friend? Come here.
Maloney's very chummy with.
Very good. That's very nice of you here. These people all came in like 20-minute notice, and I think it's fantastic. And we have so many others. And
I'm going to leave this up because his face is perfect. I want to where's the
I don't get no respect.
Yeah, let's see if I can play this. We should play the sound from Maloney, but we can play the sound effect for it. Anyways, wah, wah, wah. There's Paul Starmer. Basically, for audio listeners, Trump pulled him up to the podium, shook his hand, and then just turned his back to him, dismissed him.
Yeah.
Which is how
it looked like he was going to welcome Starmer to the podium to say a few words on the microphone, and like he did with the Paki guy who nominated him again for the Nobel Prize.
Jim. We're on YouTube.
Pakistani.
He misspoke. YouTube.
Yes, no, I think Paki guy is actually the formal term, isn't it? The Paki guy, the Pac-Man. Yay!
I wonder why some people don't return my emails. I don't know why.
Yay, Pac-Man.
Hey, do you want to come on the show, Jim? We'll just clip that and send it to them as a media package. Hey, want to come on?
Sure.
Sure.
It's a high old time.
Yeah, he was very dismissive, very warm to
Schrodinger's American Empire. There we go. It is an empire, not an empire at the same time.
Yeah. Here's the one I wanted to play. Here's Trump. This is getting, of course, for many right-wing circles, the Groypers all down. This is Trump carrying water for Israel.
Yeah.
The story of fierce Israeli resolve and triumph since October 7th should be proof to the entire world that those who seek to destroy this nation are doomed to bitter failure. The state of Israel is strong, and it will live and thrive forever. The story of
forever, Jim. forever. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't do the Christian Zionist route and say it's in the Bible. Look, it's in the Bible.
Well, he should have been more modest. How about just for 1,000 years?
6 million years. 6 million years.
Yeah, there we go. There we go.
Come on, we're going to do numbers. Yeah, there's multiple clips like this, and people are reacting to it. Of course, the dissident right, the alt right, the whatever you want to call it, very upset, very, very upset by all this. What do you think about this? So this is the allegation, right? And Trump's been getting this allegation, basically, I mean, even in his first term, but that he's an Israeli plant, that he's working for them Jews. And so, reminder, Jim, we're on YouTube, and I live in Australia. So let's be careful with the how many hums, right? But
the other one is the J word, not me. Good grief.
I mean, that's what they call themselves. What do you want me to call them? But I'm not saying anything bad about them. We love them. Why? I love bagel and lox. That's one of my favorite things. Here's the narrative, right? Is that, and again, these are the two things you're allowed to talk about. Either Trump is an Israeli agent, or that he's playing it's that 20D chess that Trump always plays, and he's stringing Israel and all the rest of them out to dry. I've gone back and forth on both those narratives. I mean, not planting any flags, but I think there's truth to both things. But I'm interested in hearing what you have to say about that, Jim. What's your take on it? Well, do we think that Trump is the Zionist candidate, like the Manchurian candidate, but he's just the Zionist one, or is Trump playing a bigger game? Because the other quote that he came out with recently, and it's on the thumbnail, is that he's saying that we're not going to have a World War III. If we're smart, there will never be a World War III, which I thought was a very interesting statement to make.
I'm not sure. Jason, we're in World War III. I don't know what he's talking about. I mean, we're already in World War III. It's not being fought as previous wars, although it may get to that. But it's already a global confrontation. So I don't know what he's talking about. Look, and by the way, you didn't play the best part of the clip there, which is his praise for Miriam Adelson, and then sort of needling her, not even really needling her, but basically throwing out there that she could not say whether she was more devoted to Israel or to the United States. And he said that is a praiseworthy thing. Now that's right up there with what's her name? Who's the State Department spokesman these days? Tammy Bruce.
Yeah,
that America is the greatest country in the world except for Israel. I mean, you really wonder what is the matter with these people. I mean, look, you could have a positive attitude toward Israel and American policy toward Israel, but we're talking about something even beyond that. And look, and I don't think it's because Trump, unlike, say, our ambassador, Mike Huckabee, who is a genuine, dyed-in-the-wool Christian Zionist. I don't think Trump has a religious bone in his body, and I don't think he believes in any of that stuff. But I think that's Occam's Ranger. Occam's razor.
Hey, Jim, don't take my bit. I'm the one who misspeaks things. That's my thing. You're the smart one.
I have to remember that. Occam's Ranger. I'm going to write that down.
Just as a side quest, did you see Mike Huckabee do his rock concert?
No.
Oh
my
goodness.
When was that?
Oh, it was part of this. I forget what song. It wasn't "Keep on Rocking" in the Free World. Here it is. Oh my goodness. Yeah. Okay, are you ready for this?
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll get flagged on YouTube for a copyright, but we'll try it anyways.
No, I think it's very
United oh geez, I'm going to bother this. United Hasla Concert, Sukkot 2025. Music production, Yuval Stupel. Performing bass, Ambassador Mike Huckabee. Guitar, Ambassador David Friedman. Singing, Elon Gold. Song, Sweet Home, Yerushalayim.
Oh, it's like Sweet Home Alabama.
Uh-huh.
You're kidding.
Sorry, Caleb. I had to suffer. You're suffering with me. Oops, hang on a second.
Misery loves company.
Is this even showing? No, hang on. Let me just.
I didn't see it now.
Hang on. We'll
Sweet
share
home
this.
Yerushalayim.
Hang on. Here we go. Oh my goodness.
Oh jeez.
This is so boomer. And I like CCR.
He's doing a pretty good job, actually.
Don't compliment him, Jim. Don't encourage him. Can't encourage this kind of behavior. Let's get to some singing. Hang on.
We all have come to help Hatzalah, and we want to help it thrive. Based right here in God's holy city. Throughout this land, it's saving lives. Sweet home, Yerushalayim.
Okay, I can't. I can't do more than that. That's all we can do, folks. But yeah, you can get the idea. Rocking good time. Keep on rocking in the free. Is it free? Man. Why would you have a free world? Why have a free world, Jim, when you can charge a little bit for it? Just at the entry. It's nice.
Manischewitz.
Manischewitz. Talking about God, we'll get into the religious aspects of all this in a second, Jim. But talking about God, here's Donald Trump talking about God.
God who once dwelled among his people in this city still calls us, in the words of Scripture, the turn from evil and do good, to seek peace and pursue it. So he still whispers truth into the hills and knolls and valleys of his magnificent creation, and he still writes hope into the hearts of his children all over the world. The God who once dwelled among his people
can't help themselves. They cannot help themselves when it comes to this kind of stuff. All right. You are an Orthodox Christian. I am becoming Orthodox. Of course, we don't speak for the church, so we'll make that disclaimer. But this has been the theological football been tossing around. This idea of Israel. Who is Israel? What is the state of Israel? What did God mean in the Bible? And of course, what's always been left out of these conversations is how many Palestinian Christians were also subjected to cleansing of kind, not the feet, the whole body. It was a whole body cleanse. So I haven't heard anyone in the Orthodox sphere making any comments about this directly or indirectly yet. I don't know. Have you, or what do you? How do we phrase this?
You're talking about what exactly?
About this Trump, this deal, Palestine, the future of Palestine.
I have not heard anything. Although I believe that President Putin said he was all for it, and so did Lavrov.
Right. Yes. Well, he offered. I mean, they offered to help as well, right?
Yeah.
Which I think we can get to the bigger conversation with Ukraine and Russia, because I think what people are sleeping on is this idea.
It's interesting when Trump said God lived here among his people. Was that a reference to Jesus Christ, which some of his audience might not have been too thrilled about that reference, if that's what he meant? Somehow, I'm not sure that's necessarily what he meant.
No, because maybe they're following Vatican II, right? Where it's all the same God.
House of Abraham.
I mean, Pope Leo just congratulated the Hindus on their
my gosh, Kelly,
yes. Oh my goodness, yes. Well, he likes a little curry. It's nice, come on.
Yeah.
He does a little yoga in the hat. It makes it more difficult. You mentioned John Mersheimer earlier, because I mean, of course, if you're invoking God and religion and all the rest of it, it's amazing to me that we're all supposed to get very, very happy and congratulatory of Israel stopping the war that they started. To me, that seems a bit odd, especially celebrating the return of the hostages, which Hamas had been offering for over the last 2 years now, I think, or at least last year. This has been something that Hamas said they would do, and was open negotiating to do, and for whatever reason, that never happened. In fact, Netanyahu made sure that didn't happen. But here's John Mersheimer on Piers Morgan Uncensored.
I think you greatly underestimate, Piers, how deeply committed the Israelis are to ethnically cleansing both Gaza and the West Bank. The Israelis now have a situation where there are roughly as many Palestinians as there are Israeli Jews inside of Greater Israel. And this is an unacceptable situation for most Israelis. And they're completely committed to ethnically cleansing Gaza and then the West Bank. I think the evidence is overwhelming on this. Now, you say President Trump sees this as a great opportunity to prove that he's a statesman and he can bring peace to the Middle East. I think in principle that he'd love to do that. But I've written a book with Steve Walt on the Israel lobby, and there's absolutely no question in my mind that if President Trump gets rough with Prime Minister Netanyahu, Netanyahu will turn to the lobby and the lobby will force Trump to back off. There's no way Trump is going to get tough with Netanyahu if he violates the ceasefire. Remember, he did that on March 18th.
But do you not think he's already got tough with him? Because I think the catalyst for what we've seen today and unfurled in the last few days, I think the catalyst was Israel's attack on the Hamas negotiating team in Doha, which was unbelievably ill-advised. It was a catastrophic failure. They didn't kill anyone from the Hamas negotiating team. They killed a Qatari security guy and other people unconnected with Hamas. And the opprobrium this brought on Israel from all the leading leaders of the Middle Eastern countries and states around there was tremendous. They all got on the phone to Trump. And then an extraordinary thing happened. Donald Trump made Netanyahu get on the phone and apologize to the Prime Minister of Qatar. I've never heard of anything quite like that happening. It was a public humiliation for Netanyahu, and it showed me that Trump does wield a lot of power. I mean, if Trump was to suddenly say, we are withdrawing all military support and financial support for Israel, then Israel could not be the superpower that it is in the Middle East.
Oops.
Well, first off, I mean, did Piers Morgan hear what he just said?
I don't think so.
If Trump withdrew this, if Trump withdrew that, and what Mearsheimer was saying, well, he can't do that. That basically, if he wanted to do that, he would be prevented from doing that. So I don't know what he's talking about. Now back to Mearsheimer, he said that there are more Arabs or non-Jews living in Greater Israel than there are Jews. I don't think that's quite right. There are about 7.75 million, 7.75 million Jews living in Israel. And if you add up the 2.5 non-Jews in Israel, 2.7 in the West Bank, that gives you a little over 5 million. Maybe, you're getting close to 6.5 for non-Jews living in Israel, the West Bank, and Gaza. So that's still short of the Jewish population, but it tends to be growing faster than the Jewish population. So maybe they're anticipating a little bit. I mean, raises a question though, by the way, what's the Israeli approach going to be to the non-Jews that live within pre-1967 Israel? When they get close to 3 million, that's going to be a problem for the Israelis.
Well, I mean, look, the demographic collapse from birth rates are affecting everyone more or less around the globe. But Israel's not immune from that. No. I haven't looked at their replacement numbers. Maybe I can just call this up. But let me just see. Israel.
Yeah, of course the Hasidim are quite prolific, but secular Jews are not.
Sure. Israel has the highest fertility rate in the developed world at around 3 children per woman. I mean, and I think that's right. But
that counts Arabs too.
I would assume this, although this varies significantly by religious affiliation. The fertility rate for ultra-Orthodox Jews is around 6.48 births per woman, while it's 1.96 for secular Jews, and the rate for Arab Israelis is 2.2. So there you go. So basically, ultra-Orthodox Jews,
pretty low for Arabs,
yeah. So basically, between the Hasidim And the Arab Israelis, we're talking, that's the majority of the three children per woman. The secular Jews are still just below replacement level, I guess, at 1.96. And of course, these numbers take them for what they're worth, right? But
that's well below replacement. Actually, you could need
right, yeah,
2.5 really to be at replacement level.
Depends who you ask. I mean, some people say actually you actually really need to get it around 4. Because of generational.
I think 2.5 means just barely holding your numbers if you're lucky.
Right. Yeah. Exactly. Basically, 2. If you're hitting around 2, between 2 and 2.5, like you can probably correct this in a generation or 2. If you're under 2, it's looking pretty scary. So. Nicholas Bowman says, I don't think Israel is the high table. I think Tom Luongo is getting this right. Yeah, I pay attention to a lot of what Tom's saying, and a lot of my analysis comes is at least.
What does that mean, the high table?
I guess I don't know. Nicholas, inform us what you mean exactly. But I think if I'm going to take a guess here, I think he means that Israel isn't making all the calls, right? They're not front and center for these calls. They're downstream from the people who are making the official decisions.
Yes and no. I mean, in terms of, Brian Bertelic says, for example, that Israel's simply another proxy state like Ukraine is. I don't think that's quite true. And other people say, well, no, the Israelis completely control the American government. I don't think that's quite true either. But I think that in terms of a powerful, gets back to what you were saying earlier, network of interests that spans both countries, of which organized Jewry is an important part, but not the only important part. That I don't think Trump's his own man. I mean, we'll put it that way. And what Mearsheimer describes as the Israeli lobby is such an important center of power, along with the military industries and everybody else, that it's simply impossible for Trump to do the things that Piers Morgan says he should do.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, and again, to your point, right, is that with the birth rate situation.
Okay, yeah, sure. High table, right.
Yeah. If you're looking at this birth rate collapse in general, then is what we consider Israelis, or at least secular Jews, will be basically gone within a few generations. At which point, what does that look like? Is Israel run by Hasidim?
Yeah, basically. Well, in fact, they've got a disproportionately high voice now because they're, absolutely necessary to Bibi's coalition. And if they pull the plug on him, he goes. So they're the tail that wags the dog.
Exactly. So what are their plans for all this? And this is so when we started off this conversation thinking about you have, on the face of it, coordination and a general coordination, but internally you have all these different little actors or groups who definitely have their own interests. And it is looking like, at least in Israel, that at least the Hasidim and the Arab Israelis are going to be the majority in a very short period of time. We're talking maybe 40 years.
I'm surprised at how low the Arab Israeli rate is. It's only 2.9, which is better than the secular Jewish rate, but it's not all that great. The other thing is, to the best of my knowledge, I remember there was a kerfuffle a while back when they wanted to pass a law to make the ultra-Orthodox, whatever you call them, serve in the army. And they weren't having any of that. So, you've got a fast-growing portion of the population that is militant in terms of the kind of, greater Israel and all that sort of thing. But they don't actually have to serve. They don't have their butts on the line the way the secular guys do.
Well, I think this also plays into the idea of that post-nationalist state, right? So if the nation state has been held together essentially by ethnic groups, with shared history, commonality, whatever have you, and then of course America kind of throws things a little bit into a monkey wrench into that by being a multiracial, somewhat multicultural. That's now, the melting pot idea is now spun into multicultural. It's the quilts, Canadian, yada yada. I think in some ways it's responding to this birth rate collapse, which I'm sure people had known about well in advance. and they're just making these. They're just trying to find opportunities to this. Because if suddenly you have these large regions of the world that are populated by 1/3 of the population, currently, then what do you do, right? So maybe you make plans to say, well, Israel doesn't have to just be Jerusalem or Tel Aviv, and that that the people of the Levant, it can be the entire Middle East. They're all Israelis now.
Who knows?
Right. Okay. We're going to finish up with a little bit with Ukraine and Russia. We've talked about this before, Jim, on previous shows. I'm willing to say publicly that I think this is that Ukraine is turning into an ethnic cleanse itself. That and Russia is complicit in that. Whether they knew beforehand or got briefed somewhere along the lines, it definitely seems that Ukraine is trying to liquidate all of its men above the age of 15. Recently, there's been Zelensky's made an announcement saying that they're lowering the militarized age, meaning the age requirement for men on the field of battle from 24 or 25 down to 23, with further aims to reduce that even further in 2027. Some think that it'll be down to about 20 by the end of by 2027. What that essentially means is that, well, officially they're not recruiting people, underage kids, 15, 16-year-olds. That's definitely what they're going to have to start doing, because it's going to take about 5 years of boot camp to train up some people especially for more specialized forces. So they're liquidating the entire Ukraine male population.
And here's the thing: when you talk about Russian complicity, I mean, I don't want to rehearse what we said in previous programs about how the Russian go-slow approach and why aren't they targeting the leadership, et cetera, et cetera. But, I think more and more people are noticing that Russia simply is not fighting this war as though their goal were to defeat a military enemy that's a threat to Russia or to whomever they're trying to protect in Ukraine. They're not trying to just defeat the Ukrainian state and army and end the war on terms that are advantageous to Russia and disadvantageous to NATO. They're like, for example, when you talk about 15, 16-year-olds and where they're going to be and how many, why is Russia using a timetable that permits that? In other words, why are you giving Ukraine or whoever is running Ukraine the space for that kind of program? Why are you giving Europeans the space to build up a military establishment? I mean, maybe they won't be successful in doing it, but they've got big plans. Why are you allowing them the time to build themselves up into what could amount at some point to be a military establishment? It doesn't make a lot of sense. And I know, if you kill Zelensky, it won't make any difference. And, if they want all of NATO's weapons to get shipped in so they can destroy it. Look, I've heard all the excuses. And it's not a military judgment as far as I can tell. It's a political judgment. And what are the politics behind it? I don't know. And my assumption was simply, well, they're trying not to trigger NATO into doing something panicky, or they're holding out for a negotiated solution. They think maybe Trump will come to the table. Maybe that's not all there is to it. Maybe there's something much bigger that they have in mind that has nothing to do with winning the war in Ukraine, nothing to do with protecting the Russian state. It has to do with all other interests and other agendas that are not confined to Russia and Ukraine or even to Europe.
To me, it's become as crystal clear obvious as it can ever become.
Yeah.
We've been tracking just the bridges. Why are you leaving the bridges up?
Yeah.
That alone makes no
they
military
can't do that
sense.
because then they could use the dams, and the dams have bridges. They can't.
Yeah.
Or you see, this is part of their clever plan to destroy all of NATO's equipment by bringing it to the war zone so they can destroy it there. Oh, bunk. None of that makes any sense.
They just make new stuff behind it. It's not like they're not destroying. It's not World War II where they're bombing installations all over Europe and globally.
And a tank that's stuck on the eastern side, on the western side of the Dnieper, that can't get to the front, is just as good as useless as a tank that comes over and gets destroyed. And of course, a bunch of Russians are going to get killed in the process too, because the war continues.
Right.
And so, just none of that makes any sense. And I know all the usual people who say, "Oh no, Putin knows what he's doing." Putin has admitted that he's done dumb stuff in the past, and the Minsk agreement, and they thought they had a deal at Istanbul, and and on and on and on. The idea that somehow, now he's got it all, they've got it all figured out. They're so smart. They're just so smart. I don't buy it.
What do you think of this? Just to throw something in there. What if this is Putin, or at least Russia, right? Here's the thing. I'll agree with this. I think Putin and who he represents is interested in the continuation of Russia in some form, right? They have Russia interests. They have interests in Russia. That's where all their stuff is. Mm-hmm. They want Russia in whatever form it's going to take in the future to continue. Okay, so they are centered in they're minded. They're together in that. The way that it's going to look like in 100 years. Now that's a big giant question. Putin's 4 15-minute cities, right? This is pulling into that light of that CCP stuff that we're constantly looking like, okay, but why is this happening? Is it a troll? Is it they're making fun? Yeah. I don't think so. I think there's it is a troll in terms of they're being sneaky about it, like showing you something.
Yeah.
But they're showing you something. And I can't get it away from my head, Jim, that this is a human sacrifice ritual that's been played out on a massive field that is burning through millions and millions of people. Mm-hmm. And now with this declaration of lowering the military age, then there's going to be 15, 16-year-olds being recruited and probably put on the field too. Unofficially.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't make even sense for territory. Now the new big news reports, and I've been saying this for a while, that Russia's been moving on Odessa. This is a major part of the military plan. If we're looking at this as a military conquest through acquisition of territory, and I do think there's an element to that still at play, because now Russia's gone hot on Odessa. They've knocked out energy installations, knocked out ports, have disrupted the grain feed throughout the world. Energy deals and stuff like being shipped through Ukraine. That's over. That's basically over and done with, because they've just blown up Odessa. They've done massive damage to Odessa in the last few days. Mm-hmm. This is basically in response to, allegedly, of Ukraine trying to knock out gasoline refinement plants in Russia and making strikes into Moscow with drones. So now we're seeing that escalation, but again, it's like why only now? They could have knocked out Odessa 2 years ago.
Exactly. I mean, we saw the same thing over the last week or two. They said, well, the Russians are really taking their gloves off. They're hitting all the electrical production capacity, which really cripples Ukraine's ability to move things around because the trains are electric. Again, why now? What have they been doing in the last 3 years? It just occurred to them now to knock out, and this gets back to all the red lines. If you use some of those weapons, and that's a direct NATO attack on Russia, we're gonna retaliate. How are you gonna retaliate? Oh, we're gonna hit some more Ukrainian infrastructure. Infrastructure you would normally be hitting anyway in the course of the war. How's that a retaliation? I mean, again, none of this makes any sense.
Bryce in the comments says something not talked about is how Ukraine had some of the largest LNG reserves that the EU could have taken advantage of and cut out Russia. Russia took most of that territory in 2014, Crimea, and now. Yeah.
I don't know how much of that is proven. I can remember going back 10, 15 years, people talking about, Ukraine's got natural gas out the wazoo, et cetera, et cetera. And I think they were talking about maybe they have it, maybe they're exploring for it. There's a reason to think it's there. I don't think they were talking about proven reserves or reserves that were ready to be exploited. So
that was
I think
Burisma,
that's pie in the
right?
sky. Yeah,
That was Burisma.
Maybe that was what Hunter Biden was saying. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Oh, this is for anyone listening. This is something that it took a while for me to really accept.
Yeah.
But over the course of this past year, with your help, Jim, and these shows, like it's really made it very clear to me. They lie about everything, everything you can possibly imagine they're going to lie about. They've lied about.
Yeah.
A 1,000 times, and they'll do it another 1,000 just for kicks. They'll lie to you about the weather. They'll lie to you about the flu. They'll lie to you about oil reserves or new tech. This whole people are getting all upset about Peter Thiel talking about transhumanism, all this other gene stuff. None of that's real. None of it's real. But the funding is, fund me, give me another $1 billion. Why? Because it's avarice. It's just greed. They can't think outside of it. It's the passions. It's why do people get addicted to the passions? Because it's the passions. The church has been detailing this for a few thousand years. So that's how humans do. That's it. Good night, everybody. Analysis done. We can move on to other things. Let's talk about Marvel movies. Who cares? It's they lie about everything to get money, and they use that money to acquire a little bit more of fake power and make everyone miserable, because that's just what they do.
I agree in part. I certainly think money is part of it, but I'm a little bit sometimes you get the explanation of all these wars. Well, it's just because the military industries want to make money. Oh, they do want to make money. But I mean, I think there's a lot more to it than that. I think there is an ideological drive for a post-national world, even a post-human world, that is much broader than just making a few bucks. Right. It's called doing well by doing good. You make a lot of money on the way, but you have other bigger plans.
Last on Tomahawk missiles. So now this is again in the news. It's not quite sure if the Tomahawks have been delivered yet, or are on the way, or will they, won't they? There's a lot of consternation about this. Putin and co have warned of nuclear strikes, or we're back to this again. If you send them Tomahawks, that's it. There's a new red line. Red line now is the Tomahawks, because now, and they made this assertion. I think this is true, that if the Tomahawks are on the ground in Ukraine, that means U.S. military is also on the ground in Ukraine officially. Because they have to be, because the Ukrainians can't fire this stuff. So it'd be basically a new escalation to the war. There's thoughts about the fact that Zelensky's calling for these Tomahawks basically to allow for the militarization order that he's decreed to continue, which allows him to continue to suspend elections, which is probably going to keep him from being tossed out of government. And then, you know what happens then, Jim? It won't be drinking pina coladas and getting lost in the rain. Well,
actually, he might be. He'll be somewhere else drinking pina coladas. The thing about the Tomahawks is, again, look at the Russian response. What was Putin's remark in response to that? This will have a very negative impact on bilateral relations with the United States. I mean, what planet is he on? I mean, this is supposed to be a stern warning. These are nuclear capable missiles. Now, supposedly, the nuclear tipped model was phased out a few years ago. But I mean, how hard is it to refit them or retrofit them or for that matter, maybe they've been working on it for months anyway, to make them nuclear capable. If you're sitting in Moscow and you have Tomahawk missiles coming in, do you sit around and say, yeah, that's all right, I'm sure these are the non-nuclear ones? I mean, what it's just insane.
Well, look, and I agreed with this, and I still, to a degree, agree with this narrative that Putin had to get involved in Ukraine and the Donbass and all the rest of it, because there's no way in heck he could allow missiles being put into a neighboring country like Ukraine. So basically putting armaments at decapitation range towards Moscow. Like, there's no way he could allow that. Right. But now, ever since then, it's like, well, they just keep moving stuff in, and he's like, stop, please stop. If you do this, is big problems in negotiations. Oh, we'll get to we'll send hypersonic missile and destroy nothing of consequence.
exactly.
What? Why don't you just, if you're going to do something, like they hit Kiev every night.
Yeah.
And it's a big fireworks display.
Yeah.
And it's very impressive.
Right.
But that means they could end this tomorrow if they wanted to.
Sure.
Figuratively.
Yeah. I mean, they could wipe out the Ukrainian government. And when you raise that, you say that issue, they say, "Oh, you want to nuke Kiev?" I'm not talking about nuking anything. I mean, you can destroy things in a very precise way, but devastating with the Russians without even putting a warhead on it at all. I mean, somebody mentioned earlier, Zelensky can't go to the bathroom that the Russians don't know where he is. And I'm not just talking about, well, if you kill Zelensky, somebody worse will come. It's not about Zelensky. Zelensky is just a puppet anyway. I'm talking about the structures of the Kiev regime. What was it? Bankova is the area of Kiev where they are. You're talking about the Rada, the SBU, the military intelligence, all of those guys. For that matter, whoever the guys are running Azov and all the rest of it. You know where all these guys are. If you're fighting real war, why aren't they being killed? Why are they the last ones? Back to what you were saying earlier. This is about depopulation, about killing everybody off in Ukraine. It seems they want to kill everybody in Ukraine but the people who are running the regime. How does that make any sense? Not if you're trying to win a war.
Well, hang on a second, right? So let's do the pitch.
Yeah.
What would the possible pitch for Putin on this one, let's steelman his position on it? Because we've speculated that it's basically trying to break the spine of Ukraine, right? So Ukrainian nationalism, freedom, all that stuff is off the board, right? So whatever territory they take, they're going to seize and they're going to hold in perpetuity, because there won't be anyone left to marshal a defense. If that's the mentality, where Putin's like, okay, you want to, so basically it's this. He knows that whoever, let's say, just say NATO, wants to liquidate all of Ukraine. Kelsey Graham was telling the truth, that to fight to the last Ukrainian, literally, right? So he knows that they want to liquidate the population. And he's thinking, well, if we liquidate the population of military-age men below the age of 15, I don't have to worry about them trying to retake the territory. I don't have to worry about any kind of militant groups springing up for at least 20, 30 years. Probably never. Because if you wipe out all the men, I mean, you can repopulate Ukraine with the global south, which I guarantee you they're going to do. Yeah. Meet the new Ukrainians. His name is Muhammad. Bitty bit bub bit bit. Chuck.
and you fault me for saying Packy.
You started it, Jim.
Big bub bub bub.
Bitty bitty bub 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 Chuck.
My name is Bill.
Schmerigi but a bitty bit of Chuck. We laugh because otherwise we'd be crying.
We can both at the same time. Yeah.
Anyways, I mean, just the last thoughts on that, Jim. This is what I'm working with.
Well, it's all I can say is it looks like things are going to keep escalating, and I don't know when that's going to stop, because you said, have the Tomahawks been sent already? I don't know. As you know, there's a whole lot of questions about the launchers. I guess they have a big, bulky, Typhoon launcher that's very, it's basically stationary, can easily be located and destroyed once they fire a few missiles. There are other options that could be mounted on barges or even possibly on rail cars, according to Colonel McGregor. So I don't know and how quickly that could be done, or whether those variants are already available. Apparently the numbers of Tomahawks that are available are the older missiles, which relatively easy for the Russians to shoot down. But again, it gets back to the bigger question. We're still talking about direct launches of missiles deep into Russian territory by American personnel on a platform that can hold nuclear weapons. If that doesn't send a chill up everybody's spine, I don't know what's going to.
At the same time that Israel will probably be launching a hot war with Iran
Yep.
by if not by the end of the year, by early next year.
Yeah, and let's take out Venezuela while we're at it. Just icing on the cake. A little enchilada on the side there.
That's a chicken treat, though, Jim. Come on,
yeah, that's right.
you could probably wrap that up in a weekend.
It will be a splendid little war.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon, Don.
War.
Yeah. Well, they all work for the same people.
Damn Irish.
Good afternoon, Don. Good to see you. We're about to sign off. Catch the replay. Ladies and gentlemen, mesdames and messieurs, appreciate you so much for tuning in. Again, go buy Jim's book. I try to warn you. Collected Works of Jim George Jatras is his time in the Republican Senate doing analysis. Yeah, go buy that book. Go like, subscribe, and share the channel. Send me some money. That's always nice. We like paying bills around the household. Yeah. My wife likes it, so do it for my wife. Don't do it for me. Do it for my wife. So appreciate that. And we'll be back next week. I'll be back tomorrow with more live shows. So tune in for that. And I appreciate all of you. Any last thoughts, Jim?
Nope. Any famous last words? Not that I can think of. Are those famous? I don't know.
Or they're hopefully not the last words, anyways. Ladies and gentlemen, a pleasure as always. I am Jason MIRONCHUK, and it's later than you think.